Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Can you talk a little bit about transit-oriented development and the role you feel that's going to play in the long-term transportation plan that you have for the country?
Well, I grew up in an urban area, so I've always used public transit, and I would expect to be very supportive of that as well. I've also lived in a rural area, in a rural state, and they have different needs as well. But overall, I'm very supportive of transit.
Yeah, so Senators Schatz and Merkley and I worked hard to make sure that there was a provision in the FAST Act a couple of years ago that was included in terms of developing guidance on the development of a transit-oriented development strategy for the country. Have you got any idea of what the status is of that provision in the law in terms of implementing a plan for?
I do not, and I'm remiss in that. But after this hearing, I will go immediately and find out.
The issue of fuel economy standards is very important to me as well. In 2007, I was the House author of the law to authorize the increase in the fuel economy standards of the vehicles which we drive in our country, and there is now a point in time where there's a reevaluation that is apparently going to take place of those regulations heading towards that goal of reaching 54.5 miles per gallon by the year 2025. If we do that, then we back out 2 million barrels of oil a day that we import. We're still importing 3 million barrels of oil a day from OPEC. And so clearly that's the best way that we can use in order to back out that oil so that we're not sending young men and women over to the Middle East, but rather we're to protect oil tankers coming to our country, but rather that we are ensuring that we are not consuming oil unnecessarily here in our own country. Can you talk about that reevaluation of the rule and what the status is at the Department of Transportation?
Well, in 2011, when the rule was initial rule was promulgated, there was supposed to be a mid-year review. That mid-year review, to my understanding, was accelerated, which is why we reinstated it again. So the Department of Transportation and EPA are working on this, and we should be on target in terms of coming up with a mid-year review by 2018.
Do you think that it's
midterm review?
Yeah. Is it in America's best interest to try to meet that 54.5 mile per gallon goal? It was tied mostly to national security, backing out that oil, creating an energy independence for our country. Do you have a general philosophy about how rapidly you would like to see a transformation of our automotive sector?
Well, I was Deputy Secretary of Transportation in 1989, and I worked on the CAFE issues back then. Certainly those standards were much lower, and we've certainly improved on them. But back then, there was also the discussion about how to balance protection of our environment, increasing the fuel economy of automobiles, while not providing any dampening or hampering of economic growth. And so I think those discussions are still ongoing. We, of course, all care about the environment. We want to do the right thing. What is reasonable, what is feasible? I think these are all discussions which we need to have with you and other members of the Congress, of the Senate and the Congress.
Thank you. The industry itself, year after year, has enjoyed historic increases in sales. And I think that's a reflection, actually, of how welcoming the public is to this automation, this cool factor that's being built into these vehicles, the additional fuel economy standards, and the Elon Musk review which I think every auto manufacturer is going to have to make in 2018, as he sells 400,000 all-electric vehicles at $35,000 apiece. And I think we should ensure that that gets factored in very clearly into any reevaluation that takes place, because I think that is in and of itself going to trigger a game over for traditional ways of looking at automotive technology in our country. So we thank you for your service, and I just want to say, Mr. Chairman, to you and to the ranking member and to the Secretary that I'm ready to go anywhere, anytime, to work on a bipartisan infrastructure bill. I'm ready to work with anybody at any time. I think it's absolutely imperative for our country that we have a bill that passes and passes this year, and hopefully we can do so quickly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.